Hello there. So this is another wonderful day here in New Albany, Indiana, my headquarters. So today I want to share this with you. With the Lord is unfailing love, and with Him is full redemption. That's right. So I love these little cards. That is Psalms 130, chapter 7th verse. With Him is full redemption. He died for us. And this is a Sunday morning, and I was listening to Carmichael Ministries, and he's telling how we all should pray more, and we probably should. I know it wouldn't hurt me any, but I sometimes fail those kind of things, but I do pray. I like to meditate and pray when I get ready to go to bed at night, when my mind is clear, or early in the morning sometimes when I go back to bed, and I take a time of meditation and prayer. That's what I do sometimes. Just get alone, with the Lord. So today, I want to chat about the telephone system that I have watched come into being since I was born in 1933, September 19th. People say, "You're not 91." And I said, well, my birth certificate must have lied. But anyway, go vote for Trump. Hurry. Don't waste a minute. Get out there. Go do it. You got one more day, I think. So I just had to throw that in there. So anyway, I remember when I was a little girl, there was no such thing as telephone for us to use unless there was the first phone I ever was in contact with when we lived in Lynchburg, Virginia. Dad was working for them still, and they provided a house for us, and they had an office down about a half a block from where we lived. And it was an office, and there was 3 telephones in it. And I was about 8 years old. And my Uncle Aaron, who went into the Navies and was a frogman in the service, he would go down there to the office, and I would go with him. And they had a phone in each office. So he had a girlfriend that he ended up marrying, and I just loved her. Their marriage did not last. She was a Catholic, and he had to sign that he would raise all the kids Catholic, and he did that, and she raised the children Catholic. But they were good people. Anyway, so I would go down there. There are 3 phones, and he's calling up his girlfriend, and her name was Shirley. She's gone now, and he's gone. They're all gone, but they knew the Lord, so that's the main thing. So anyhow, he'd say, "Are you my sweetheart? Are you my girlfriend? Are you my sweetie?" or something like that. And he would say, "I think somebody's listening in. Hang up that phone." And it was me in the other room listening in, saying, when he would say, "Are you my sweetums?" Now, what is a sweetum? That's the first time I ever heard that word. Are you my sweetums? Yes, she was his sweetums. He ended up married. And so then time went on, and I listened in a lot, and we moved to Indiana later on. And by then I was 10 years old when we moved to Indiana, and we lived in what was going to be the smokehouse later, which it was cold, and we had to live in that little shack, and it was about 20 by 20. It had 2 beds, a stove, a table, no chairs. And we lived in that till Daddy built the house. And him and Norman, they worked on it like crazy and got the house finished. We didn't have a phone then, but after I got about 12, 13 years old, they put poles in, and we got a phone. And that was interesting, because then you could call the neighbors, and it was a party line. And I don't know how many was in on it, but I think as many as 6 families. But I do know we had different rings, and when it rang a certain way, 2 rings and a short or something, it was for you. So, you would answer it. But a lot of times you would hear somebody else getting called, and you would pick up the phone and listen in on their business. And they'd say, "You think somebody's on the line? Do you think if y'all are there, hang that phone up. This is private." It wasn't private because they couldn't tell really for sure if you hung up or not. Or sometimes if people would call and they would say, if anybody is picking this up, hang up. This is an important call. And I don't want people listening. And you would hear phones hanging up sometimes. Other times they would listen in. People are very nibby. I have listened in on a few when I was a girl myself. I didn't find it that interesting, but I have listened in because it was just interesting. Okay, so you could bring the cow over today to be serviced. There was a guy that owned a bull, a big breeding bull, and people would take their cow to get pregnant. And Daddy didn't have no way to take his cow, and the man lived within walking distance, which was pretty far. So he'd just get him a stick and drive that cow behind her till she would go to where the bull lived, and he would get her serviced. And then she would have another calf in about, I don't know how long it took. But then when she would, what they called it was come fresh. When the baby was born, then whole new milk would start coming down because they go dry and don't give down milk right before their babies are born. But then we would have fresh milk, and that little calf would get its part and we would get the rest. We would kind of cheat the calf sometimes, and we would get some and the calf would get some, but enough to keep it alive, and it would make her give more milk if you drained all the milk out. So that was part of farm life, was taking the cow. And then when you had a female, a sow, a hog that needed to be bred, maybe you didn't have a male hog because they were called boars, and they were kind of mean sometimes. So somebody would have a big old boar, and you would take your female hog over to visit with him. That's what well, now Daddy could get her in the back of the pickup truck, I think. Norman will have to tell me if that was really true or not, but we didn't have a boar hog. So we had to take our female elsewhere, and then we would have maybe 13 or 14 little old baby pigs. And what was interesting about that, when they got so old, like 3 or 4 months old, I don't know exactly, I could check it, I guess, they had to be cut. And that means they castrated them. And Daddy would castrate those pigs after they got so old, the boy pigs, because you didn't want them to turn into a male hog. And that's called sweetbreads, as they would cut the testicles out of the pigs. And Daddy would bring them home. He'd put them in a bowl and bring them home, and Mom would cook them for him. She wouldn't touch him. I wouldn't touch him. I did not want to eat pig nuts. I just didn't. They were sweetbreads. You can buy them at the butcher shop, even now, if you've got a good butcher shop around. We did have, but our butcher shop closed down, so I never did that. But I did like brains, cow brains and hog brains, and we always cooked the brains. You'd take the brains and you dip them in flour and fry them just like you would chicken livers. Delicious. I don't think you can get them anymore either unless it's at a butcher shop. I don't know for sure. But those are the things we did when I was young. And then the phone. Who would dream that someday, I saw it in science fiction where somebody was talking in their shoe, and on the TV shows, the funny TV shows, talking in their shoe like it was a phone. And now guess what? And the first thing I got was one of these things that you could call somebody and it would ring it, and then you would have to get to a phone and call them. Their number would come in, and then you would call them, and I carried that. And the first phone I ever got was a flip phone. Now, them flip phones did not take pictures or do anything like that, but they kept improving them till you could take pictures, message, and do all kinds of things with the flip phone. When the smartphone come out, where you could take real pictures and do little videos. My daughters, Karen and Kathy, they went whole hog. They got them. And they said, Mom, we want you to get one. Now, I always had my flip phone, and I was happy with it. I said, oh, okay. They said, well, that way we can FaceTime you and keep in touch. And because one lived in South Carolina, the other one in New Jersey. And we can't FaceTime, and we do it on our iPads now. And then when iPads came out, I was one of the first ones to get an iPad. And they were very hard to do anything with, but I learned how. And I learned how to run my smartphone. But I'd have to call Karen, and she'd say, now, Mom, you do this, you do that, you do the other. Now a 3-year-old can do it. I mean, if you really want help, ask your grandchild to help you with your phone, Grandma. They can do it. And to keep the little kids happy, you know what they do? The mothers and the fathers, they hand the kids their phone so they can watch cartoons or something while they're shopping or doing something else or sitting in the cart. Because those little old babies, 3 and 4 years old, sit in the cart and they're sitting there looking at Mommy and Daddy's smartphone, watching cartoons, playing games. It's amazing. So anyhow, I got a smartphone and I got an iPad. And the first iPad I got was a big old heavy thing. Well, they started improving them. So then I got me a little mini iPad. And that was back in early 20s, 2011, sometime along there, 2013. And that's when I started taking my little iPad with me to Bluegrass. And I took some videos, and I thought, well, now that's neat. I took some Bluegrass videos, and they're still on YouTube. And I signed up for YouTube in 2013, and I only used it a few times. But then when I finally, November the 9th, 1 year ago, almost, I said, I'm going to take me a selfie. And I was looking at this same, I bought a newer iPad with more GB in it or whatever. I've learned about them. I was looking at my iPad and I said, I'm going to take a selfie. And I was 90 years old. And I said, you know, you don't look too bad to be 90. I believe I'll talk a while. So I talked about 11 minutes. You ought to check that one out. It is so... I didn't. Since then, I have really learned how to comb my wig better and do stuff and look better for a grandma. You just work on it. That's what you do. And I have done that. And I've learned a lot. So anyhow, with that iPad, I said, I'm going to talk a little while. So I talked a little while. You know, I want to go to Walmart. I go to Aldi's. I do this, that, and the other. And I do something all the time and still do. Even though I'm 91, I like to run around. I've already been to Walmart this morning, got some milk for the other house and dropped it off at that house because it's real close by. And then I come back here to watch Carmichael Ministries, who I watch, and they're going to church. They're bringing in kids, and children are getting saved. You know, if you train up a child in the way he should go, the Bible says when he's old, he won't depart from it. It's in his heart, her heart. And so train up your children to know the Lord. Let them listen to my Bible stories that I put on YouTube. Or you tell them Bible stories. Or buy them a Bible story book. And I know a lot of 25 and 18, 25 young parents look at me some. So, and you grandmas and grandpas, you can sit down and read them a Bible story. We always had Bible story books, and I always had them for my kids, even though we went to church. So, you know, Buddy, my number one husband, he didn't ever read the Bible or know much about it. And when he was called into the ministry, there he was, studying like crazy to learn who Noah was and who Moses was and the Old Testament people. And he studied like crazy. I mean, he had studied for hours because he had no background. All he did was go to church. And down in Tennessee, I'm going to tell you this. He was a teenager down in Tennessee. And down in the mountains where he was from, they had churches that handled snakes. The Pentecostal people, a different sect from what we are, Assembly of God, do not handle snakes. But we're Pentecostal, and we believe in healing and that God can do practically anything. He can, really. And he's healed me many times, as you well know, you that have watched my other um, videos that I've put on. But there's a fun thing to do. They went to Sunday school, but they didn't have good teachers or anything, so he didn't really learn anything. But their fun thing to do was when the snake handling churches would have meetings, the teenage boys would go and look in the windows and watch them pass them snakes. They'd have them in boxes. He told me about it. I think you can see it on YouTube in some places. And they would hand them around, and they believed that if you got bit, you wouldn't die. But most of them didn't get bit. But some did die, I think. Oh, well, I got to research that some more. I research a lot of stuff. But they handled snakes, and it was scary to me. But anyhow, when he started dating me and went to my Pentecostal church with me, he said, I was looking around for the boxes to see if they was going to have some boxes and get some snakes out in boxes and start handling them. If they was, he said, I was leaving. I can't stay where there's snakes. He saw that we were not snake handlers, that we just believed God for much. He says, by his stripes we are healed. And when he died on the cross, he gave his life that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Satan, the old devil, is called the prince and pality of the air. And he rules a lot down here, and he's got a lot of demons, and they want to tempt you into doing things that you shouldn't do. But God said he would make a way. You know, the Lord's Prayer is the best prayer you can pray. My Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as it is on earth, as it is in heaven. And deliver us from temptation. Deliver us from, and there's temptations everywhere to do the wrong thing and to go the wrong directions. Lord, deliver these children from that. And so I pray the Lord's Prayer because it's the perfect prayer, and it's 2 times in the Bible in 2 different books. You can look it up. The Lord's Prayer is good. You can pray it yourself if you don't have one, because he told his disciples that was the way to pray. And it says in there, forgive me as I forgive those who trespass against me. We are supposed to forgive people, even if they don't ask. Don't carry a grudge. That's a bad thing. And all it really hurts is you. They don't know you're hurting inside as you walk around with the hurt. And I've been hurt a few times, but I just pray for the Lord to deliver me from those hurts. And when somebody does aggravate me and hurt me, I say to myself, Lord, I'm not going to let them rain on my parade. Because we're parading through life, and we choose not to let other people ruin our parade by holding grudges and holding things against people. Just let it go, kiddo. It's not worth it. It hurts you more than it hurts them. And that's a fact, Jack. Well, God bless you. James, I on my iPad, I can know where James is and what he's doing. So he was at church, and I was streaming this morning, and I looked at my iPad, and it says he's at Lowe's. That means he's shopping for lumber, for nails, for something. He is getting ready to build us a porch, and I'm so excited. I really am, because I just love porches. First thing I did when I moved to this house, there was a concrete small patio, and the first thing I did when I got the money, didn't have that much, I hired somebody to put a roof on that little porch. And we could sit and watch the cars go by back in 1963. And then later on, after my Charlie dog got killed, we got a little dog named Charlie that kept following the kids home from school. It belonged to somebody else. And we didn't have a fenced-in front yard, and he got run over by a car. And I fenced that front yard, and we'd sit on our little porch and watch the cars go by. That was a fun thing to do in the evening. Now there's so many cars that if you sit on that front porch to watch them go by, it's too noisy. So you just stay in the house where it's a little quieter or go to the backyard. That's enough for today. I've had fun. I hope y'all have as I chat along. And my kitty cats are so interesting, and I make little shorts of them. And I took a rest from TikTok. I don't know if I'm going back to TikTok or not. You get a lot of subscribers off of TikTok, but they don't stay. But I tell them about Jesus when I can in just little shorts. You don't do real long stuff on TikTok. It's just short little old stuff if y'all have got TikTok. So I'm thinking about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll decide later. Right now, I'm going to say bye-bye and God bless you and walk that walk where Jesus would be pleased with you. Bye-bye.